It was a late afternoon. Lloyd walked to his favorite spot where he usually go to when he needed to do his deep meditation practice. He did that after he'd taken care of some chores along with Cole and Kai. But when he was in his deep meditation, he suddenly heard a voice, someone calling out to him like, Lloyd, please, help! And then suddenly he saw a vision of one particular individual. And that was Akita. He literally then somehow snapped out of his deep meditation. He had no idea what to do next because this was really unexpected. As he was just sitting there, Cole and Kai walked by when they saw him. He was pale as a ghost, as if he had seen an actual ghost. Lloyd, are you okay? Asked Cole curiously, but he didn't get any much response at all. Hey, Lloyd, said Kai a bit louder. What? Are you okay? You seem out of it. I mean, you're white as a ghost. Have you seen a ghost by any chance? Said Kai a bit jokingly. No, I don't know what that would happen. Well, you can tell us, said Cole. Well, I mean, I don't know what it was about. What do you mean? Well, then he explained what he saw in his deep meditation. Well, are you sure that was meditation state or not just your typical sleep? Well, I wasn't sleeping. I mean, Master Wu showed me that's one of the most common practice how to doing, meditation. You might perhaps talk to Master Wu about this. Maybe he can tell you if this was a dream or if it was actually somehow a vision or something. When Cole mentioned the word vision, that hit Lloyd. Could this have actually been a vision? But he had thought that it was probably the best idea to go to talk to Master Wu. After all, he was old and wise, and he may have some knowledge about this. So when he went to see Master Wu, Master Wu, Lloyd, what can I do for you? Uh, I have a little bit of, how to say, a dilemma I want to talk to you about. Come in, sit down. Then they start talking, and Master Wu, he explained this couldn't just have been a typical dream, even though this sounds like one it could have been. But after more describing how he felt when he saw Akita's face, as she was so terrified, and she was actually seems to be hurt, and well, I don't know what to do. I mean, what if this actually is real? Master Wu was actually a little bit, were actually a little confused, but he tried to convince his nephew that this is not what he should probably do. But his advice was to do some more meditation, and maybe if this happens again, then it's not a typical dream. But if it happens again, and it's changed to something else, then it's definitely a vision, not a just typical dream. Lloyd thought about this for a moment, but he decided to stay at the monastery for that night. So he went to a room, slept down, slept there. He was sleeping there, and by the next morning, he decided to do more intense meditating in that room. And after about half an hour, he was in a deep state of meditation, even deeper than the day before. And sure enough, Akira's voice repeated the same, and her face appeared, but this time he saw that she was injured, like blood of her arm and her part of her side of her body, and she was calling out for Lloyd to help. And he could see that she was in a form of a cave. she had no idea what to do. So he told Master Wu about this, and he literally confirmed this was a vision. But what the vision was supposed to be showing, Lloyd said, could this was something that has happened? Or is this something that will happen? Master Wu said that it was impossible to tell if this could have been something that has happened or that something that will happen. And since she was calling out for Lloyd and not her brother Kataru, so Lloyd suggests that he could go there to Neverrealm to find her. But Master Wu at first was hesitating to let his nephew just simply go like that. But anyways, he thought to himself, if Master Wu wouldn't allow me to do this. And eventually it did. He went there despite not informing the rest of his friends and his uncle, Master Wu. And when he arrived to the Neverrealm, he was actually approached by a number of people. They were hunters. And he immediately recognized at least one of them. One of them was Kataru. Kataru! Is that you? Lloyd? It has been a while. What brings you here? It's about your sister. Akita? Wait, have you seen her? Wait, she is missing? You probably... But Kataru was stuttered and was like, you probably should go back with us. So they went back to the village where Lloyd was informed. Only about a day ago, Akita left the village for a journey, or at least for a hunt by herself. But since she hasn't even returned in 2 days, or at least in 1 day, her brother tried to convince the village elder to let him go with a few others to find his sister. But the elder tried to convince him that it was probably too late to find her sister. But Kataru was stubborn. After all, he just wanted to find his twin sister. So the village elder allowed it to go. And that was when they found that when he was encountered by Lloyd. And Lloyd himself then mentioned about his vision to the village elder and Kataru. They were both stunned, and how he described that she was in a cave and that she was hurt by that she was bleeding over one of her side of her body. They asked more details like where this cave is located if he said something else. But he shook his head and said no. All that he knows that she called out for him and that she was injured. But that's it. The village elder decided to maybe put him for a deep meditation once again. Now that he's in Neverrealm, maybe it somehow could trigger some more visions. Lloyd was actually not very much against the idea, and he agreed to do it. After he was put in a deep meditation, he eventually saw more, but only that she was in a forest, and then she was attacked by a pack of animals, and then she managed to take herself shelter in a cave, but was too weak. Now she was bleeding, and that's it. But thanks to those details, Lloyd was able to find, along with Kataru and 2 other hunters, to find Akita. They found the forest, they found her tracks, and eventually found the cave. After only about a few minutes inside the cave, they found her unconscious, but she was still alive, but just barely. They brought her back to the village where the village healers looked after her. Kataru told Lloyd that he was very grateful that somehow Lloyd was able to find his twin sister. Even though that Lloyd didn't have no idea why he was the one that connected to Akita in this vision, not his own twin sister and her own twin brother, or at least one of the other hunters. But the village elder may explain the reasons why she was reached out to him is because she may have strong feelings for him. And Gataru did mention this when it was just him and Lloyd alone, that for a while after that Lloyd and his friends had left, Akita talked often about Lloyd and how she thought that he was brave, strong, and very handsome, which made him blush a little bit, but he was okay at least later on because the village elder informed him and Gataru that Akita would make a full recovery, even though that she may have to stay in their home for at least a few days until make a full recovery. But when she was informed that Lloyd was in the village, she requested to see him. But he was told not to stay too long because she was still weak. But she demanded to see him for longer, so he asked her if she did somehow send this vision message to him across space and time. And she did, she said. At least that she thought that it would happen, but she wasn't sure if it would actually work. But she was glad it did. After that, Lloyd stayed behind in the village until that Akita had made a full recovery, and when she was back to health, he told her that what Gataru had told him about her feelings for him. That made her blush a lot more, and she decided almost to change into her wolf form to attack her twin brother for revealing such embarrassed. But Lloyd said even he had been thinking about Akita ever since they helped her and her to find her twin brother all that time ago. That somehow stopped her tracks and looked at him and asked if he was serious. He nodded. And for that, she revealed that she was in a deep love with him. Another thought when he had to telling her that he had to go back to his home world. But before he did, Akita went up to him and asked if she could go with him. He was a little surprised and asked her if she was even willing to, but what about her twin brother and her village? What did the village elder to say about this? So she actually told him about it. But at the same moment, some of the villagers, along with her twin brother and the village elder, walked up to her and said, "Have a good journey. Always welcome back here at any time." Even though her brother tried to convince her to stay, but in the end he knew that her heart belonged to Lloyd, and as that she wanted to be with him. So she had to go. Unless that Lloyd stayed behind, Kataru said, but he knows that Kataru had a point that he could, but Lloyd decided not to do that. So when Lloyd returned to Nyago, or at least the monastery, he was scolded by his friends and Master Wu, who just simply left like that without telling them where he was going. But when they saw Akita next to him, then he realized at least Master Wu knew what happened. He told them by the time after they calmed down why he did leave. And when they find out that he did that in order to save Akita's life, because somehow she sent this message to her in a vision to save her life. And she was very gratitude to do that. And she informed Master Wu and the others she is going to stay. From that moment, Lloyd and Akita started dating. And Akita wasn't really, she had a little bit hard time to get used to living in such modern style in Nyago City with Lloyd. But in the end, they were just happy that they managed to pull it off. After about have been dating for themselves for about 3 years, Lloyd had been asked by Kai, Ye, and Sane about his potential future with Akita. And during these 3 years of Akita been living in Nyago, she actually had adapted quickly to the new lifestyle. She actually had become very good friends with Pixel and Naya, including Skylore. And the fact that even though she didn't have the element of power like Lloyd and his friends do, but she was a strong fighter and she didn't hesitate to defend her friends and her boyfriend. But they actually had asked Kai, Cole, Sane, and Jay had asked Lloyd if he was going to marry Akita one day soon. And Lloyd said in a whisper and showed them the ring that he was actually planning to propose to her soon, and they all gave him approval. And they actually was just happy because he took her for a picnic in a park in Niago City and asked her. She said yes immediately. When they told his family about this to his parents and his uncle and his friends, even though some of his guy friends only knew about it, but Pixel, Naya, and Skylore themselves was just happy. And later they went back to Neverrealm to inform this news to her twin brother Kataru and the village. And they were just excited. Kataru told Lloyd to all and wish him all the happiness for his twin sister. But Lloyd and Akita promised they would be back as soon as well. And after that, they decided to have a small wedding at the monastery. Of course, her twin brother Kataru was invited. And he was actually chosen to be Lloyd's best man, and Naya was asked to be Akita's maid of honor. And at the wedding, everyone could see how happy Lloyd were with Akita. And in fact, when Lloyd's parents found out of Akita's ability to transform into a wolf and as a human, or at least a formling, as they call it, they were quite impressed. But they welcomed her part of the family no matter what. Later on, Akita and Lloyd actually went back to Neverrealm as a honeymoon for about a week. They stayed in their village for a time, and Lloyd actually had a good time. But after about a week, they went back to Niago City again. But they promised her village that she will be back from time to time to see how things are going. About 3 years later, they announced that they were expecting a daughter, which they named Kimberly. Kimberly, well, she was like her mother, very brave, fast, but another thing is also, she inherited her mother's formling ability to transform to a wolf. And she was proud of her daughter, and she did train her this ability. And Kataru, well, he was happy to have a niece that was like his sister. But only about 3 years later, after Kimberly was born, they have another daughter, which they named Cadence. Cadence, well, she was like her father, brave, strong, but also had the ability of using the element of energy. Eventually, Kimberly would eventually get married with a man in Niago City and have at least 2 daughters of her own. And her daughters, along with herself and her mother, had the ability to transform into wolves. But Cadence, she was also like that. She became the next green ninja at the monastery when she was older. But she also married a man from Niago City and have at least 2 daughters and 1 son of her own. After all this, Lloyd and Akita couldn't have been happier to be with this. Because even how, despite that Akita could have been insecure of herself, but at least she was willing to put all the things aside that made her worried and embrace happiness of being with the one that she loved the most in the whole universe. Lloyd was both happy and excited that he was able to tell Akita about his true feelings for her. But he never thought that he would be able to see her again after the last time he saw her. But he was just happy that somehow she sent these vision messages in order to him to save her life. And for that, she is surely gratitude for him forever. And this is how Lloyd and Akita, for the true love, got a big family together. The end.